Welcome back, Rainmakers, to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Rainn, and today we're going to get into it with some technical analysis. Now, as you all know, I'm a fundamental analysis person, and that has done really well by me. I do understand technical analysis a little bit, but I'd be doing you a disservice if I had the opportunity to bring on an absolute expert at it, and I didn't take that opportunity. So on Wednesdays, we've been very blessed to have a special guest joining us, Paul Rodriguez, and sharing his expertise. He's been doing this for a very long time, and not just in crypto, but in stocks, I think since the 90s. And he does this for some very big investors, and he's got a history of that. So I met him through some mutual friends and contacts, and we worked out an arrangement that he comes on weekly to join us here and give us some technical analysis, up to date, looking at the charts on what's relevant, what's popping, where they're at. Now, he has a very different trading strategy than I do, which is fantastic, because my goal with this audience is to create the most informed crypto audience out there. And so I'm very biased, I'm very outspoken on what I think, and I'm often right. I'm just not always right, and there's a difference. Now, often right does very well with my trading strategy, but the more you understand technical analysis, the better you can make your buys, as well as you can make some short-term swing trades when you identify good risk to return ratios. And that's why it's awesome to have somebody like Paul join us and share with us how he thinks about it. Because as you understand how Paul thinks about it, you start to really leverage his experience to become your own experience. And so let's welcome Paul Rodriguez from Definity, who's joining us now. Paul, are you there?
I am indeed. It's great to be here. Hi, everybody. Thanks for all your suggestions, and I look forward to getting into them.
Yeah, it is a fantastic time to have you on. I've been so excited, looking forward to hear your analysis on what is going on with the Bitcoin, as well as like in the world, what's going on, because we have talked about having you on that equities were looking weak and that they were probably going to break down, and they have. Bitcoin has been taking off, and so I'm excited to hear your thoughts on that and some of the other things we're going to look at.
Yeah, it's been such an interesting market because it looked like we were going to go into a risk-off October, and October's usually a really bad month for stocks. So we thought that might play into a risk-off environment for cryptocurrencies, but it seems to have worked in inverse. It seems like this risk-off environment is actually benefiting cryptocurrencies. So it's a really interesting little twist, and so we saw that breakout, which I'll show you. Let's actually get into the charts, because I much prefer to show you a picture than tell you about a picture. So let's get into them. So I'll start off with my trading view, and then we'll look at the other markets that might be of interest. But let's have a quick look at the S&P, just because you mentioned it. Now this is a topping pattern that we saw, which occurred just around the 4,500 area. So we had a really small top that triggered into a bigger top, and now we're forming what's called a head and shoulders reversal pattern. It's nothing, fancy. All it's saying is that the market was going up, and now it's going sideways for a bit, and it could potentially retrace and go back down again. So this was because of this topping pattern and the topping pattern that we were seeing in the NASDAQ, very similar, previously strong markets breaking a trend line, looking like they're going down. We were thinking, well, this could lead into the Bitcoin trade. Now, it's not that we don't think it will go to 100,000. We've always said 100,000 is a target, and we expect it to be there next year, because there should be a move out of the US dollar, out of lots of other assets, inflation, and all these things going on that could benefit cryptocurrencies, and Bitcoin in particular. But it was a question of whether we see a correction and then it goes to 100,000, or whether it goes straight there. So for those of you that have been following what we've been saying, we did have a breakout level for Bitcoin that if it broke this level, we would immediately go for this 100,000 target. Now that level was between 53,500 and 54,000, which it broke. We got an early trigger on a break of this resistance line. So the market was moving down, and we were saying, look, this is a constriction, this area here. And if it breaks down again, we'll be looking at the next level of support, and then perhaps even the next level of support. But when it broke through this line, it negated everything. It negated that move. And we saw a massive, impulse wave which is just a really sharp upward move, and then another consolidation, and then another really sharp upward move. And so the question is, where will it go now? And this has taken us out of what could be a long-term topping pattern. So there was a potential massive double top. Now, if I just switch over to a weekly chart, we can see that this was potentially one, and I thought, well, could this be forming a two? We're going to have to see. But if it doesn't form a two, if this forms a continuation, it's going to take these highs out. It's going to be up here. It's going to go for 100,000. And if you look at the chart the way it is now, I know there's quite a few lines on there. There's a reason for that. I'll show you in a moment why. But if you look at this type of chart, if it's going to get up and break through this high, there's nothing but blue sky above. And so this could be the start of a massive move, which would continue into the year end, and it could actually become a really fast and aggressive upward move. So we've got to be ready for it. And the way it seems to be trading, I mean, like especially today, it was off 4-5% at one point, and then it just recovered. And this is exactly what you'd expect from a bullish market. You know, any little retracement is taken as an opportunity to buy back into. Now, in our weekly, I've included this obviously, and I put these levels in because they are previous resistance levels on the way up. So let me switch this back to a daily chart and I'll show you what I mean. So right, flatten that out a little bit. So these lines here represent resistance points in the past where the market had turned around. So as you see, we've got resistance here, resistance here. So I'm very much what I call a chart reader. There's technical analysis, which is looking at oscillators, moving averages, and all that stuff. And there's chart reading, which is what I do. So I look at the price action because for me, that's the most important thing. And so so there is some resistance. So there's a little bit of turbulence to get through potentially. But if we get through these levels, you know, there could be a really big squeeze. Now, I don't know what you think about the market generally, whether you think this could be the surge or whether there should be a retracement, but it's certainly looking a lot more interesting from a technical perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I didn't know whether to think October it would turn around following what it's been doing. I mean, there's some underlying things happening that are really, really intriguing. Number one, reports of people, institutions selling some of their equities portfolios and rolling that into crypto. I wondered if that would happen my fear if equities took a fast dive was that institutions would sell crypto as well just to have more cash on hand. But with it taking kind of a slower turn, it seems like they're seeing, well, I'm concerned about equities continuing to increase in price. Let's roll over some into cryptocurrency. And so that's been interesting, and I think that's partly behind what has caused it to start coming up again and pushing up. Now, I expected it would turn around possibly October, but likely November and December. And so we're seeing maybe in October it's going to push up earlier than I expected.
Right. Okay. So that's interesting. So we're going to see it go up and then perhaps go down towards the year end, as opposed to going down and then go up towards the year end. That would be interesting. And the other interesting element that I've got my eye on is bond yields. So as bond yields go up, although they've let me just reverse this to a yield chart because that is actually a let's see, yeah, there we go. So this is a yield chart, and as yields have been going up, it's actually not been a negative for cryptocurrency as well, which is very strange because as the price of yields go up, it is effectively a competition or competitor to any other investments. And I know you can get some pretty racy interest rates returns on certain crypto investments and you know, in yields as well. So I know there's plenty of good yields out there, and you know, 1.5% is not going to encourage anybody at this point, but it moving up is still an indication that things are turning. And government bonds are supposed to be the safest place to have your money. I don't know whether that's necessarily true anymore with the amount of money printing going on. That then comes back into the whole area of crypto again, whether if we start to get inflation at a very high level, there is still a lot of protection in being in cryptocurrencies. So it's a really interesting market. It's definitely changed its tone. Like on the 1st of October, it changed its tone. There was the risk off element continued, but the Bitcoin element just reversed its direction and just carried on going up. So very interesting. And of course, we've always talked about, especially you, Crypto Rainn, you've always talked about the the smaller coins with the interesting technologies that are really out of the limelight and just don't correlate to anything in the major market anyway. And those have been the most interesting ones, because I think, if I'm right in saying, I'm pretty sure you said this, if Bitcoin goes to 100,000, it's going to double. But some of these other coins, they can go like 3x or 5x, sometimes in a week. So I know there's more risk there, but there's definitely more reward there. In some ways, there may be a bit of less risk because you can get in and out quicker. You don't have to have your capital employed. And especially if you use your strategy of getting in, and then when you've made your money back, exit some of the position to cover what you put in, then you have effectively a risk-free bet.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with such high swings. And so the key to that is buying low. But, I'm not sure how this will play out. Now, though there's been some stories about some of the institutions buying crypto from stocks, what's interesting is they only let that publicly be known when they want it to be publicly known. So there's another scenario that could be playing out here. Is that they're trying to get everyone super bullish onto Bitcoin before they dump on everyone one last time before then it goes parabolic. And they play these games because there's a lot of money in it. It's a widely unregulated space. So they play these games in other markets that are regulated. It's just a lot easier for them to play them in this market because this market's still relatively small. So this is one of the reasons I don't trade on leverage. And one of the interesting things about where Bitcoin's price is right now is there's a very little that's being traded on leverage.
Right.
That's curious. I don't understand why that dynamic. Very interesting. So a lot of this price action up is legitimate price action up, and it's not like shorts being liquidated.
Yeah.
Not a ton of leverage is being played right now.
Yeah, one of the charts that I was looking at, which was the Bitcoin Ethereum, Bitcoin versus Ethereum, and again, there seemed to be this switch around the 1st of October. The chart looked very much like Ethereum was going to power ahead and Bitcoin was going to underperform, even if it went down. But then Bitcoin just surged up, and it kind of reversed it. I mean, it hasn't completely reversed that trade, but it's not looking like at the moment that Ethereum is going to get ahead and Bitcoin's going to reverse. So it's still possible, but there was a swing and the momentum was there. It was ready to go. It was almost like the golfer who just swung back. He was just ready to hit it, but it just didn't happen. And so so we got to reevaluate that, which I thought was an interesting technical indicator, because it showed that there was a dynamic change, that there was something going on fundamentally, and it was that people were buying Bitcoin as opposed to some of the other markets, even though, of course, Ethereum has gone up. It's just not gone up as much. But yeah, so should we have a look at the viewers' picks, the community picks?
Yeah, so now for those that are watching this, if you want to give us some picks to look at for next week, what you can do is put them in the comment section down below. And up to 2 picks. Now, if you also tell me what you like about those, then I'll go deeper into the fundamental analysis. Otherwise, you'll probably just get a little bit of price analysis, because what I like to do is reward your side of the effort. We're not here to tell you everything. We're here to guide you as to how we think, so you can make more informed decisions. If you're looking for somebody to tell you what things to pick, that is not this show. This show is about teaching you to think like an investor so you can make the high returns as an investor, because you understand the principles behind it. But we have some viewer picks from last week that we want to cover, and we got multiple requests again for XPR or Proton.
Sure. Now, Proton was the one that I was fortunate enough to buy, because I like this, what's called a triangular constriction pattern here. So I kind of got in down at this level. And also it was making this reversal, we used to call it a saucer bottom, although I haven't heard that expression in a very long time. But you can see why. It's like a, you know, saucer or plate. And then if you look at how the outside of this is run, it's mirror imaged, and it's done it beautifully, perfectly. It's very rare that this happens so nicely, but it just so happened. It's almost like a complete mirror image. You know, you've got this little correction here, which is like this. But the idea was that it would start to take off. And given that everything else was moving, it kind of added a little bit more to the fact that this could go. You know, there seemed to be a lot of, you know, crypto assets that were moving higher. And when that happens, you know that there's broad interest in the space and greater potential. So along the way, we would look for the resistance points that might stop it. Of course, you have little corrections along the way, but that hasn't interrupted the trend. And its stopping point right now is exactly where one would expect it to, which is right at the prior high. Now, I know you were good enough, Crypto Rainn, to tell us what this technology is. And I've got to admit, it shows you why I use charts, because I've completely forgotten. And I don't really retain that sort of information. I'm like, okay, I really like the chart, or I don't like the chart, and that's sort of it for me. I mean, I do, you know, obviously try to remember the technologies, but I'm basically influenced by the chart. And I would say that, you know, getting out of your initial investment, if you'd already got in, not the whole thing, but enough to just to, you know, make it so that you don't lose anything if it collapses, is a pretty good idea here, because it's hit resistance. It's had a really good run. It's going to have a correction back down again, because nothing goes right up in a straight line. I mean, it could. So if it keeps going, then great. You'll have something in it. And if it doesn't, you know, you've got your money back. So I think the trend is definitely still going up. I mean, there's no reason to exit 100% of the position, but we have matched the previous high. There will always be resistance at that previous high point. And so the market could come back down again, down to 0.02, and then back up again and consolidate and then break through. So we could exit out and wait a little bit and then try to buy it back. But I think if you try to exit 100% and then buy it back, there's a risk that it goes straight up and then you chase it and then it has the correction. So all I can do is tell you what I'm going to do. I will exit some of the position and leave some on the table and try not to watch it. And I'll watch it every few days. And, you know, just like, oh, is that made a top? If it hasn't made a topping pattern, I'm happy. If this goes into some sort of triangular constriction, and a triangular constriction is pretty much just a little breather, you know, like when you're going on a long journey, you want to stop off at the station for a bit and just hang out and then carry on. Well, that's what the markets do sometimes. And you see that in these chart patterns. If they last too long, it's like there's a problem and the market's going to go back down. But it's a little consolidation is actually all right. And sometimes I use that to buy even more. So if I see a good pattern, you know, it'll encourage me to buy in again, even at higher levels. So for now, the trend is looking good. But look, we've hit the previous high. That's a major resistance point. And it has come off it. It's come right off that level, which is exactly what you'd expect. So 0.029, or, you know, 0.03 basically, you know, psychological level, there's going to be a reaction. So, you know, taking a bit of profit there, and I'm not telling you what to do with your money. You know, I'm just saying there's no advice on this channel. This is what I'm doing. And of course I could be wrong. I've got no monopoly on that, and I will be wrong, you know, many times. You'll see it. But this is what I think. I would exit some of my position, wait for a little correction, and then try not to watch every day, because you can just get shaken out. But it also depends on your time frame. Like, if the technology is good and you do the sort of research that Crypto Rainn does, maybe this is one to just put in your in the bottom drawer and keep it in your back pocket and forget about it and look at it in a year or two's time. And it could be, you know, tens of dollars. So that's the only way you can, you know, make outsized gains, is by kind of not watching it, because you will get so tempted to take profits along the way that it's almost impossible. So that's what I think at the moment. So, but week to week, technically, it's looking good.
Awesome. This one is for universal payments. So think of the Cash App or something with crypto, and that you can send it to people like that could have at James or something their wallet address to send it to, right? As
Right.
well as users don't pay gas. It can do 4,000 transactions per second, which is what 400 times faster than Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And you can do in-wallet payment requests, so a lot like what you can do with PayPal and Cash App. And so this
That's
is
brilliant. Yeah.
been going that way. Yeah, and so they must have had a big announcement. I haven't seen what it is. Something came out, and you saw it in the charts, which is funny because the charts kind of show things. Even if you don't know specifically what it is, you can see the momentum building for it in the price action.
Yeah, that's the thing. You see, when you read the news, you get used to sort of seeing things move before the news comes out. So, like the Evergrande situation, the chart was going down way before it was in the news. So, this is why it's a good idea to watch a few markets, some that you wouldn't even trade. Because if you keep watching them week to week, then something will trigger. Like most of the time, it could be boring. There could be nothing there, and you just go, okay, there's nothing happening. But every now and again, you'll get one that will go, whoa, something's happening here. And if you don't know what it is, it doesn't mean there isn't something happening. It just means you're not party to the news. That's all. And so when you get the news, this is what Crypto Rain and I were discussing a few videos ago about once everybody's looking at the news and the good news that's out there, well, everything that was being anticipated is there. And so that's a good, what we call contrary opinion trade, to maybe exit some of the position and wait for it to go quiet, as I think it's the expression that you use.
Yeah, boring.
Yeah, boring. That's
Boring.
it. Boring and low, and you want it to
Yeah,
get deeper. Yeah, I love that.
exactly.
Yeah, because we're very different in the way we look at that, but we agree on contrary opinion. So if there is a lot
Exactly.
of noise around about this, I will start getting a bit edgy and maybe want to exit a bit more.
Exactly. Well, let's take a look
Brilliant.
at another one. This one is Vent. Now, they launched fairly recently, I think 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago. Um, their CEO, Lucas, came on the show with the chairman of Meld, Ken, and they talked about the bridge between Polygon to Cardano that they built. Now, Vent is a launchpad, and it's launching projects on Cardano. So essentially, it's a Cardano launchpad.
Right.
They've just barely announced their first launch project that they're raising for, which happens to be Meld. And often when projects come out, they sometimes do crazy returns immediately, or if they kind of have a slower launch, they then pick up steam for a little while, hit their peak price, and then generally retrace for a little while before then kind of rounding at the bottom and then at some point taking off again.
Right. Now, I've done a little bit of analysis here, and I just want to make sure I've got the right one because otherwise I've done it for the wrong chart. Is Vent Finance, right? Is that
Yes,
yeah,
that's it.
so this is the one. Okay, so look, it's been in a downward trend. This has been a what we call a double top. So a double top is a trend ending signal. And remember I was saying about what the charts look like when the market's consolidating and then it's going to move higher? Well, that's usually compressed, whereas this has been massive swings, which tell us that there's a reversal or people are getting out of the market. And the trigger is this horizontal line. And it's called a double top because, of course, there's two peaks. Now, they don't have to be at the same level. They can be at different levels, which is what's gone on here. But the trigger level point is this 0.752 level. So that's extremely important. The fact that it got below that was a sell signal, and it's remained a sell until recently. And now it seems to have had a bit of a pickup. So the lows are rising, and it's attempted to break this trend line, which is the first sign that we can actually consider if you were short covering or potentially to go long. So it hasn't given a full signal as yet. It's just a partial signal, but I'd like to see it break this trend line. This is encouraging. This sharp move. It's come back again, which is a bit of a shame. I'd like to see it close to that trend line. If it's going to break it, it's got to be near it. So I want to see it break this trend line. If it can do that, the next target I'll be looking for is 0.75. Now that is the big level. If it gets through that, we're off to the races, because it means that anybody who's shorted it or anyone's out of it, they'll have to start getting back in again. And breaking this downward trend line, depending on where it is, obviously it could take a little while before it gets there. We'd have to look at that as the next resistance point before it going all the way back up to 1. But yeah, I mean, it's got a bit more work to do here, I think, before we can buy it, because it's broken this 0.75 level. But it's encouraging that it's showing a bit of signs of life in the last day or so.
Yeah, yeah. In my audience, we like to buy when it's boring. In fact, part of me, prays it gets a lot more interesting. Even though I stocked up on this before, and many of my subscribers stocked up on this close to the 25 to 30 cents mark, not realizing it goes so parabolic so fast, but sometimes just does, and so then it's just having a retrace from there. But
Yeah.
I would love for it to get really cheap again, because I'd love to stock up more on this, because I think in the coming months, as they get more Cardano projects launching on them, they have a smart team, so I imagine they'll get some solid projects. And then usually their price action will do really well when they're launching a lot of solid projects. And Launchpad tokens tend to do exceptional as the market gets hot, because then everyone wants to get into these initial DEX offerings, because they can put $200 into a project, or 400 or 600 or 1,000, and sometimes 30 or 50 exit a week after the launch of whatever project that they got into. But in order to be able to participate, they have to hold the Launchpad tokens of that project. And so that's why when the market gets real hot, Launchpad token prices go up tremendously.
Right. Is there any? Just wonder whether you'd looked at the correlation between these technologies and Cardano itself. Does that matter at all, or not really? Are they kind of
Specifically, this is a launchpad for the Cardano ecosystem, so it has some to do with it. As Cardano's ecosystem gets hot, there tends to be more FOMO for the projects that are launching on the Cardano ecosystem, which makes launchpad tokens more relevant, because for people to be able to get into the initial DEX offering, they have to hold the token of the launchpad that's going to be launched on. So
yeah?
there is some correlation, and Cardano's been kind of settling too, and so there's not as much hype for holding Launchpad tokens on Cardano, and so the price, I mean, it had a really big pickup too. I mean, it launched, in 25 cents, 30 cents wasn't even a bad price. It was a good pickup price. Then it went really high really fast, and it's just retracing from there.
Yeah. I just quickly put up the Cardano chart, just because it looks like it's in a short-term constriction. So, if we can break out over sort of 220 to 230, that sort of area, then it would look more interesting. So that might bump the other market up as well. So it's kind of worth keeping an eye on both. Yeah, but that's really interesting. I mean, as you say, understanding the technology behind it, putting the two things together is just makes it fascinating. So I can understand why you don't mind if it gets cheaper. So what is the next one?
This one is POCO, POCO. It launched just a month ago as well. This is a play-to-earn game. It's got a lot of similarities to Axie Infinity. Basically, you would say kind of copied it in some ways and then made some improvements on it. So they took gameplay that they knew worked and did well. They modified the characters. I don't know that this is just my opinion looking at it. Modified the characters, enhanced the gameplays in some areas where they thought it could be enhanced. So if you almost think about it, they just made like an Axie Infinity 2.0. And but they're still in that, okay, they have the token launched. I don't think the game is playable yet. So in
Right.
they're that early days where it kind of gets boring. So they launched, there's a lot of hype about it, the token price does well, and then kind of settles. And then it gets into the interesting possible buying zone if you're trying to buy when it's boring, and that's what I do. Now at launch it hit that crazy price, all the way up to almost $5. but for some reason people couldn't sell and people could only buy at first, and so I think that's part of what spiked the price up so high, and then it's just kind of tapered down since then, entering pretty attractive range. I would have to figure out roughly what I think the market cap is.
Yeah.
In fact, I might be able to look at that.
Well, while you're having a look at that, I mean, technically, it's still a wait and see for me, because it's broken its new low. It did that quite sharply, which is not a great sign short term. What I want to see is a final kind of capitulation, which that's fairly big. That's a fairly big move down, especially when everything's been moving up, which clears out the kind of short term, weaker hands, and then the true sort of believers like yourself who see value will pile in, and then we'll get a rally. So, we're waiting basically for people like you to buy it and to think it looks good. So I'd have to defer to when you think that might be, when it's cheap enough. But at the moment, I would still be standing aside, because as you've seen with the Proton trade, I don't mind it making a bit of a low and leaving that to one side and moving with the momentum as it's going up. I have a different kind of approach where I like to be kind of swimming with the tide as opposed to against it, because I just don't have the technical understanding behind the coins or the time to look through them. I could do if I wanted to, but it would just take me too long. And so I simplify it by just saying, well, I'll wait until it's going up. It's not going up at the moment, so technically I can't buy it. But if I understood a bit more about the technology, I might be tempted to, buy a little bit, because it's definitely cheap, and if it's a good idea, then it will turn around.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, POCO Land. I've got it up here. For some reason, CoinGecko would not load, and
Right.
yeah.
There's been a few internet problems, haven't there, in the week, as we know from Facebook and WhatsApp and all that. And funnily enough, I've seen spillovers into quite a few internet sites. So, I don't know if it's related, but it's definitely been happening.
Yeah, I've got POCO Land here, coin market cap, and it's saying its fully diluted market cap is 43 million, which this early in the stage, it's probably only got maybe 10% of its tokens or less in the circulating supply, probably even less than that. So its market cap is probably under 4 million.
Oh, right. So
my guess is the price does get better than here. I don't think this is the bottom. It might be close. It might only be halfway there. Who knows? It might only be, it might still go to half the price it's at now.
do you get tempted by these lows yet, or would you?
That's at the point that I would start being like, especially under 30 cents. I would dip my toe in, because I do like to catch near the bottoms, and then I just forget about it for a while.
Yeah.
And so I don't watch it until literally my signal is when I start seeing it covered everywhere. Like if I had some Proton, I would see, oh my gosh, all these, start to see people talking about, and all these videos talking about. Then I get serious about looking at it and seeing if it's an exit strategy. Sometimes when I put my initial buy order in, I put a sell order at double or triple to get my initial back out. So at least I know that hits. And then I'm just waiting for a solid exit. Now, a lot of my altcoins I'm just trying to accumulate right now, not necessarily sell unless I see them doing remarkable things, and then I'm taking some profits out. The reason I'm trying to accumulate is I do think sometime in the next 3 months, Bitcoin is going to absolutely blast off. Might be now, it might come later, might be a little fake out now, I don't know. But sometime in that next 3 months, and then that money is going to flow into large cap alts, and then it's going to flow into the small cap alts. And those small cap alts can do 100x, some of them, from where they are. And so that's why I'm just patient, right? I take these positions, I hold for longer terms. I love to buy the bottom. It's hard to tell where it is, so that's why when I see price like this, I decide maybe I'm going to put a little bit in and pray that it gets cheaper. And if it never does get cheaper, that's okay. At least I have a little bit in. If it gets a lot cheaper, then I put larger amounts in so that I can dollar cost average into really low amounts. You don't know where the bottom is, and then at some point it flips around, which is exactly what I did on the next one let's talk about, which is Ecomi.
Yeah, and just before we look at that, I just wanted to ask you, because I don't look at the fundamentals. Has there been a lot of noise around Proton? Is it like, are there a lot of people talking about it? Is that it would that be a good contrary indicator?
Well, one of the things is I've seen it noticed in my Telegram group a couple of times, and in the comments section we had lots and lots of mentions at. And what's funny is my audience sometimes knows, like when I see lots of mentions from my audience about something, I do take it more serious, and they even sometimes catch it pretty early.
Yeah.
And so, like we saw, actually, the last 2 weeks, we saw lots of mentions and requests for it to be analyzed. Now, 2 weeks ago, the price was really attractive.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So,
Interesting.
let's.
And this is one that we were looking at as well, and I bought this one as well. So this was on the breakout, and it was because the community on your channel had asked to look at it, and it was because of this resistance point here. Let me just highlight it. And so what we were looking for was a break of this line here: resistance, resistance, resistance. So it came back to it, and it had made its bottom, and it was moving up. So this is why I liked it. Now, of course, if I was as good as Crypto Rainn, I'd be buying it down here, but I'm not. So I have to wait until it's going up before I get in. But so I'm not going to pick the bottom or get near it, but I will try and, buy it when I think the wind's behind it. And so I see no reason to get out of it at this point. Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to collapse or suddenly go down, because you know what it's like. The markets can do anything, and I'm only looking at probabilities. But for now, the trend seems to be up. So I'm happy to hold it, and I would just draw a trend line in and use that as a stop loss. If you wanted to use a moving average, that's fine. That's how I use moving averages. Moving average is nothing, fancy. It's just a simple average of price, and it will tell you when, when the market's trending up or when it's trending down. And so you could use like something like a 30-day moving average or 50-day moving average as a stop loss. You can even program it, which is what I'm going to be doing in the future. So it's something we're going to show signals for, but I just haven't had time to do it. But it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be clever. It doesn't have to use AI, although AI can be great as well. But the idea is just to try and hang on in and use a technical signal to get you out and protect your profits, or to not buy something and hold it when it's going down if the technology's turning going to be usurped by something else. So this one is still okay. It's a nice smooth upward trend. We're not seeing any signs of massive selling. The first sort of signal that things are going down would be a break of this trend line, but that's okay. It can do that as long as it doesn't break 0.0062. That for me is resistance and support. If it's come back here and broken it, I'd get a little more concerned. But ultimately, I would still try and hold it for a long-term play, as long as this trend line's in. If it breaks this trend line, then I would just exit. And sometimes you end up exiting with not a big profit, but that's okay, because you haven't lost anything. And again, you could take the idea that it's gone enough to get your initial capital back and protect it, and then just leave it. But if you were asking me today, would I buy this? And this is a question that I think you should ask yourself. If you didn't own it, do you still want to buy it at these levels? If the answer is yes, then you're okay to stay in. If you hadn't bought it, would you buy it? And you say no, and you kind of put yourself in that mindset, even though you've got it, then that's telling you maybe you should get out. Now, I think your instincts are your friend. Your instincts know when you should be getting out of something. And so trust your instincts. And it's really hard to do that, because most of the time you override them. And that happens, with news stories and things like that. But, when it comes to chart reading and whether you like something or not, George Soros, by the way he used to trade was whenever he wasn't sure about something, he used to sort of move his body into a weird position and his back used to hurt. And that was his sell signal. So that was why he was so successful, because he had a physical kind of way of telling him that there was.
Oh, I lost audio to you, Paul. not hearing you at all. Let me see.
Okay.
There we go. I can hear you now.
Okay. Okay. I've got. Yeah. Let me go back in, and there we are. So, do you know where you stopped from, or I could just carry on, or should we?
We only lost you for about 5 seconds.
Okay. Okay. So
You
the
were talking
headline.
about George Soros when he would turn his back and it would get in an awkward position. You knew, and we caught all that. Then
Yeah.
it fell off.
Yeah, and so it would hurt him, and then he would get out of his trade. So it was almost like a somebody tapping him on the shoulder saying, "Get out." But at the moment, this is looking good. So I would look at that and say, "Yeah, I'm long, I'm in, and it's moving in the right direction." So where the kind of proton high, if you like, if it's going to mirror it, it would get up to 0.0133. So if it gets there, then it's a good level. That's a good level to exit some, because it should react against it. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this one fundamentally. They have some digital collectibles as well for it that I've been collecting over the past 8
Brilliant.
months now. A lot of my audience as well. So they have some of the DC and Marvel licenses and many of the top licenses for collectibles out there. And so while their token has been dipping ever since March, some of their collectibles have gone from $80 to $2,400. So I got lucky and I got one that went from $7. It was lucky that I got the secret rare. It was one of their comic books, and it's now worth maybe 40,000.
My goodness. Nicely
Yeah.
done.
That was a little bit of luck because it's a blind box drop and you're just lucky whether you get common, uncommon, rare, ultra rare, or secret rare. And the secret rare is you got like a 1 in 50 chance.
Wow. Okay.
Worked out though.
Well done. So it still looks good technically, and trend is up. We shall see. But those are the warning signs. If it breaks the trend line, or if it breaks this support here, that's where I would put at 0.0062. It means momentum's coming off. I would just be a little wary of it.
Awesome. Love this one, and much of our audience does too. They have lots of good things continue to come out, and they just feel like they continue to build up steam.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at one I haven't looked in quite a while, and that's Polygon or Matic.
Yeah. By the way, I just remembered, I don't know if you've looked at Harmony, but that was one that I think you were saying was a good one, and I think that's really exploded. So I don't know if it's on the list, but we should look at that as well. But
Sure.
Polygon is in a triangular, what I call a triangular constriction. So this is similar to the situation we saw in Bitcoin, because it gone up, come down, had a rally, looks like it's coming down again. So I would have been concerned that it was maybe making a double top if it broken this level here, and then it would come down to 0.063. That would be a major sell signal. It'd be like, boom, it's going down. But we've seen what we've seen in the crypto space, and things are going vertical. So what's going on here? Why hasn't it moved? Well, sometimes there's a bit of a delay. As Crypto Rainn was saying, you can buy into these, you buy Bitcoin and then things flow down the river into these other markets. So I think this is what's going to happen here. And it's still in this constriction, so we do need to see a breakout. But at the moment, it's fairly quiet, so not a lot's happening. But my bias now is to the upside. So I want to see it take out this resistance line, and then we go for 180, and then from 180, we're going to be heading up to, what's this high here, 2.55, 255. So in the short term, it might still range trade. It could be, in this range for a couple of weeks and then go. But I'd like it to go quickly. I'm sure you'd like it to go quickly as well, because nobody wants to sit on a train that's not moving. But for the moment, it's still stuck in this constriction, so it needs to kind of wake up a little bit. Now, I've seen like markets like Stellar do this, and they're starting to move. So there does seem to be this trickle-down effect. I just want it to keep going, and anything that doesn't move within a couple of weeks, I think I'd be a little bit concerned about. But it's still within that window of when the first move occurred. But yeah, this chart's looking okay. It's just a bit neutral here, and I'm using the broader bullish signal as an indication that it's going to go up.
Nice. Good. This one saw some massive gains from the winter. If you look back at there, how
Yeah,
cheap it got, under a penny. So essentially, the top went 230x from, if we say you bought in at a penny. And so this is why I tell people stick around for 5 years, be here this bull run, take some profits. Likely, it's not a guarantee, but likely we'll have a big retracement. And in that big retracement, you can make some amazing buys that then go from the bear market to the top of the bull. And we're not even at the top of the bull market. It's already made where the price is now. It's at over 123x. And so who knows where this will end up. And so this is why, if you're serious about changing your financial situation over the next 5 years, I mean, what better place to be than here? And it will get boring in the bear market, and that's when we like to buy, when it's boring. But it does get really boring, so we will find fun ways to keep it interesting during that bear market. And we do have some giveaways. We have our 401js that we'll be giving away in the next 1.5 months, as we head closer to 30,000 subscribers, and from 2 other projects, Cortex and Federa. So yeah, and more giveaways. There's another one being announced, some NFTs. If you join our Telegram group, we'll be giving away some NFTs that are launching for Shaquille O'Neal with his deal with Ethereum chain. And so we'll hopefully be able to continue to pick up more sponsors, be able to do more giveaways, so that when it does get really boring, there's little things like that keep it interesting.
yeah, and there's always something moving. That's what I've found about markets. There's things go in cycles, and you're absolutely right. Things can go a bit quiet, and you might have to look around a bit. But there's so many coins out there, and so much to get through, that there's always going to be something that looks interesting. It's just a question of how much research you have to do before you get to it.
It's true. And that's what we do on this channel, is we do research, and we do more research. And in our Telegram community, we attract people who are kind of research and fundamental directed, and there's some very smart people in there as well. And it's nice because you do catch some of these strong ones when they're down, understanding why fundamentally they're strong, so that then you can hold them on the way up. But it does require patience to work out.
Absolutely.
So, great. Yeah, let's look at Harmony.
Harmony, right. So now this is one that I wish that I'd bought and I hadn't. And yeah, so, and I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was saying good things about it.
Yeah, fundamentally, it's a strong project, and it is, hitting that resistance point. It might have even broken through, come back, and retrace, but it might break up from here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really nice setup, because what you've got is you've got this rounding reversal. It's gone towards the resistance point, and it is consolidating near the high. So it's not broken it and come straight off, like how people grab their profits as soon as the market's gone up. It's not really done that. So there's more to come. It feels like there's more to come. And yeah, it's chewing around the high, which is okay. It's okay. I would like to see it, start to move off a bit quicker, but yeah, it's literally on that high. So you got resistance, it's come back, hit it, and of course, the first time it's come back again, which is, again, if we remember the Proton chart, this is what it possibly could do, but it's made a nice triangular pattern, which pushes it back into the high again, which is what I like. You've seen this really strong surge here, which has taken it through. So that's showing us that there's some good buying going on. And this is a nice little consolidation as well. So, this could literally just go straight up. And I think it's got a good chance of doing that. And even if it doesn't, even if the trend rate just gradually goes up, it's still in a very nice upward trend. So yeah, so I think that's still a good one. A really good call there, Crypto Rainn. That was a great one.
Yeah, their current market cap is at 2.3 billion. So I always ask myself, where could a project like this go? And it is its own blockchain project. Something like this that could go to 23 billion. It could go to, it could go 30x from here. could is different than will. I don't know where it will go, but I just kind of get a grasp of where the market cap's at to get an idea of where competition has gone. So this is a third generation blockchain. So if you think about Cardano and Binance Smart Chain and some of the other, or the BNB token, have gone to market caps of say 70 billion, and this is at 2.3. Well, as those market caps go up to even higher numbers, this could come to where they have been. So that's what I look at to get an idea of where I think things could go.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really nice looking chart. So, well done, guys, for picking that out.
Awesome. Well, that's what we have. Do you mind if we take a quick look at Ethereum before we wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. Yeah, so Ethereum is in this triangular constriction. And so this is a kind of pause before the market should go straight up. So broadly speaking, we are still in this range, this, like, we've gone, let me put the levels in for you. So this is the resistance point up here. That should be a horizontal line, but it's a trend line. Let me just get that. See, I've got the video that sometimes jumps in front of my cursor. So this is the range that it's been in, and this is why I wanted to be patient, because we could see that momentum had come off, and this looked like it was a major top, and it turned around, it acted as support, it went all the way up again, and it's come down again, and so it's swinging around, but it's still it's playing within this box, or this range. So as it got near the high, I was like, well, come on, it's got so close to the prior high, why doesn't it just squeeze through? Because it's very rare that the market gets that close to a prior high and then comes off again. But it did, so it wanted to consolidate before it takes another go at it. So that's fine, but very short term, it's very volatile. It's a really volatile market. You see your updates going up 3%, down 2%, up 5%, down 6%. But if you look at the chart, it doesn't actually look that volatile, but it actually is. But within this area here, we've got what's called a triangular constriction. And that's usually a good bullish pattern. Now, we would see a sharp move, a triangular constriction, and then another sharp move. So I would be waiting for another similar sharp move that could, push us towards 4,000 quicker than maybe people are expecting. Now, I'm not saying that this is 100% call. Okay, so don't say, like, if it doesn't go, I'm just saying that there's a good probability. And I'd put that at about 65 to 70%. And in market terms, that's still good. That's still odds in your favor type trade. So I like the look of it. It feels like the market itself has been talking this Bitcoin and, Ethereum by, implication lower. So there's been a lot of bad news out there, and it's just sat here quietly. And that's what I like. So it's kind of absorbed the bad news. So even if we do get another fake out, it still looks like it's going to go up. So I'm going to stay on the bullish side.
Fantastic. We're here at exciting times, and unfortunately we can only see to the left of the charts. To the right is unknown. And I wanted to share a thought with the audience after I let you go, Paul, about how I think about this long-term investing, and just some funny things I ran into with people before I got into crypto with real estate investing. In fact, if you want to hear the story too, I've been an investor for 20 years prior to crypto. I've been in crypto for 4 years. And it's funny, in crypto I saw, or in real estate investing, I would see this one occasion really stood out to me, where there was this piece of land near a corner where a big shopping store was going. And he's like, I had the chance to buy that 20 years ago for $5,000. Oh, I'd be so rich today if I had bought that. And it's like, yeah, you would be. Why didn't you buy it? Well, because nothing was here. Yeah, right. That's why it was $5,000. So, wow, man, I should have done that. And it's like, well, I could take you about 3 miles that way, where along a major road, where likely, probably, you don't know for sure, possibly, They'll build a shopping center down there, and you could buy that for about $5,000 or $10,000, and it's probable or possible that in 20 years it's worth $1 million or $2 million. Well, there's nothing there. Why would I buy it? It's like, well, that's why you're paying $5,000 or $10,000 versus $1 million for it, because when everything's there, then you pay $1 million for it. So what I realized is some people don't have the ability to grasp golden vision. They can only see things the way they are now. They can't see the way they will become. And so investing is difficult for them. They can't see, okay, these are the right components coming together that this could happen. And so it's really hard for them to be patient. They hear about people making these incredible gains, and oh, I bought Dogecoin at half a cent and now it's worth 70 cents, and oh my gosh, they made $1 million from 10,000 investment. They don't understand any of the pieces that goes behind that, of buying when it's cheap, when it looks terrible, or buying when you're uncertain but the indications look good, and holding through when that period realizes and having the patience. It's difficult. It's not easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it. Now it's simple, but simple isn't necessarily easy either, because we're human beings. We're emotional. The reason why 95% of people panic sell into the 5% of us that are patient and buy when it's boring is because we understand the principles. We look for these projects that have solid fundamentals, and you find people panic sell into your hands. I mean, an example is LeBron James. The NBA Top Shots NFTs dropped last October and November, and there was a common LeBron James. I was thinking, wow, it's a first edition LeBron James, one of the best basketball players, even though I know very little about American basketball. I followed it back when Jordan played, but I haven't in 20 years. But LeBron James, I know who he is, and I was like, $57. Well, is this platform going to make it? I don't know. At the time, nobody was talking about it. Hardly anybody had heard of it. Nobody was talking, even though they're starting to talk about NFTs, they weren't talking about these NFTs. And I thought, I don't know if he'll do well, but LeBron James, got to do well. And these, it shows him dunking the ball. So I imagine, so $57, somebody sold into my hands. And wouldn't you know, by March, just like 4 months later, those were going for almost $30,000. By then, everyone had heard about it, and you couldn't even buy packs of it anymore, because every drop they had, you had 100,000 people trying to buy 20,000 packs being dropped. And so that's buying things that have the right fundamentals, and some of it's just guesswork. You don't know, and you're not even always right. But if you invest with solid principles, you don't have to be always right in order to do really well. And so when we cover this TA day with Paul, it's a great idea for you to get his ability to look at charts combined with some fundamental way of thinking, so that you can start to formulate your own way of thinking, so that you can start figuring out what type of investor you want to be, and maybe using a hybrid of both, or maybe you decide one way is more along your lines, because no two people are exactly the same. And so the goal of this channel is to build the most informed audience over time, and that will lead to being the wealthiest audience over time, and hopefully in the next 5 years. Because beyond that, I'm not committing to anything more than 5 years. I have a lot of delayed gratification. In other words, that's saving, letting it grow, and then spending a lot. So I'll be doing a lot of spending 5 years from now. And so I don't know if I'll put as much time and work as it takes in the YouTube channel. But if you stick around for the next 5 years, I'll be here with you. For all of you in the audience, this rap song I had specially done for you, reinforcing the principles of crypto investing that's made essentially my system that's made me successful. And it's just a fun way to reinforce these principles for all of you.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, you buy before you're good. Was taught to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I'll always make the time in mind. I sit the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Why when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, go parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. The time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and a feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to studying to know that nothing comes easy but with knowledge to gain show. Sticking at this wrong cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing and when it's slow will be the target. Naysayers come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. I'm sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. In 2 years time the bull will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go with the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. This game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.